Hi, I'm Dr. Cicely. Welcome to my YouTube channel where we will be talking all things juvenile corrections from a restorative perspective. And today we are going to be talking about officers being killed in juvenile detention facilities, which should never happen, right? But specifically, I want to give you I want to give you 5 ways that you can engage with youth in a positive way so that officers are not killed. And definitely so youth are not killed. Really, we want everybody to go home alive, right? And this conversation is so important because a youth counselor in a Wisconsin juvenile correctional facility was killed by a 16-year-old boy on June 24th, 2024. And, technically he was assaulted. And then later he died in the hospital from brain injuries. He went brain dead. And so let's watch this clip about what happened in Wisconsin.
Youth prison dies following a fight with a teenage inmate. The DOC reported a fight Monday night at the Lincoln Hills Copper Lake schools just south of Tomahawk. A 16-year-old inmate reportedly attacked 2 staff members in a residence hall. Officials say the first staff member was treated, expected to be okay. The second, though, hit his head on concrete during the attack. He's identified as 49-year-old Proulx. The Lincoln County coroner declared him brain dead so the family could donate his organs. The inmate appeared in court today. Javarius Hurd being prosecuted as an adult. His bond set at $100,000. The youth prison is now being overseen by a court-appointed monitor. This comes after years of allegations that staff members abused their use of pepper spray, restraints, and strip searches on inmates.
On June 24th, 2024, at the Lincoln Hills Copper Lake schools, also known as a youth prison, right? According to the criminal complaint, 16-year-old Hurd attacked one staff member, a woman, by throwing a liquid substance believed to be soap in her face and punching her in the face. The complaint states that Hurd then went outside into the courtyard where a second staff member, identified as Proulx, followed him. According to the complaint, Hurd maintained a fighting stance and punched Proulx in the face 2 times. The complaint states that Proulx became incapacitated and went limp after Hurd punched him a second time. Then immediately fell to the ground and struck his head on the pavement. Hurd then proceeded to climb up the basketball hoop and sit on the hoop, overseeing the courtyard, according to the complaint. So what we have here is a 16-year-old boy who's incarcerated has punched a female youth counselor in the face. The youth counselors, also known as corrections officers, basically in juvenile detention facilities, because these facilities are, affectionately called schools. This one is called a school. And so, 16-year-old Hurd, he threw soap on the woman's face, punched her a couple times, then went out, ran into another counselor whose name is Proulx, and punched him a few times in the face, knocking him to the ground. Then goes and sits on top of a basketball hoop. So kind of tells me, this was a targeted incident, right? So I'm just really wondering, what happened? So Proulx, who was punched in the face, fell to the ground, hit his head on the pavement. Then he was rushed to the hospital. And he was later pronounced brain dead. Reports even say that when his family came to the hospital, he was unrecognizable. His eyes were swollen shut. He was unrecognizable. All right. And so, and it just, but I'm looking at it, I'm like, this kid goes and sits on a hoop, a basketball hoop. Doesn't really seem like, he really set out to kill 2 youth counselors that day. Does seem like he was upset and angry about something, certainly. And so, but I do imagine he was pretty shocked when he was later told that Hurd died at the hospital. I imagine he was pretty shocked. I mean, you can look at his face in the video, right? When he's in the courtroom, you can tell he's shocked. You could actually even look at his hair. Look at Hurd's hair in the video. looks to me like he hasn't even been in this residential facility very long, because who has done his hair? His hair looks fairly fresh in those, in those plaits on his head. But anyway, I'm just wondering what happened, right? What happened? Why did Heard attack these youth counselors? Okay, so I found another article from a Wisconsin news site. And so Heard told investigators that his built-up aggression towards the woman staff member, it stemmed from, he thought that she was abusing her power. He felt that he was being treated unfairly. And so earlier that day, apparently, the day before, he had recently found out that a grievance that he filed he was not satisfied with the outcome of the grievance. And he felt like he was being mistreated, right? He felt that he was being unfairly treated. And this particular woman who he threw soap on her face and punched her, he felt that she specifically was abusing her power. And so he says he had built up aggression, right? And Heard stated that he planned to attack her, and he asked another youth to obtain a cup of soap from another staff member to throw at her, right? So subsequently, Javaris Heard, 16, he's charged in the death of Corey Proulx, a youth counselor for the Wisconsin Department of Corrections. So Heard is facing 1 count of second-degree reckless homicide, 1 count of felony murder, battery with special circumstances, and 1 count of battery by prisoners. Heard is charged as an adult, even though he's 16. Right now, he's going to be charged as an adult. He's being held in Lincoln County Jail on a $100,000 cash bond. So if convicted on all counts, Heard faces up to 52 years in prison and $120,000 in fines. So this 16-year-old boy who was in the juvenile detention center for I don't know what, but he was going to end up going home. We do know that there was a time frame when he would get to go home and hopefully live a productive, healthy, prosperous life. Now he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So another 52 years. And then 17-year-old Ryan Nyblom. So Ryan is the boy who actually went and got the cup of soap from another staff member. So now he's an accomplice to a murder. So he's been charged with felony murder and 2 counts of battery by prisoners as a party to a crime. So Nyblom is being held at the Lincoln County Jail on a $20,000 cash bond. And this is all very disturbing to me. Right? Because we have a dead officer, a dead staff member, and we have 2 boys who should have been treated as children and been helped to repair the harm, be held accountable in a restorative way for whatever harms that they have committed in the community, to deem them to be incarcerated, right? Receive some, education, training, some individual, counseling resource, whatever, some individualized treatment that they needed. And they should have been going home safe and alive and healthy. And Proulx should have been going home to his family safe and alive and healthy. Now that's not going to happen for any of them. And so I want us to zoom in on this concept of built up aggression, right? So in her statement, he said that he had built up aggression towards the woman staff member because he felt that he was not being treated fairly, right? So this tells me that the staff were working in an unsafe environment, right? This facility was unsafe for staff, and the facility was also unsafe for youth to be living there, which all points to a culture of retribution and punishment, which means a very toxic and unhealthy culture. Untoxic and unhealthy work environment, a toxic and unhealthy residential and educational and treatment environment for youth, right? So when youth have built up aggression, it can manifest in various ways. So often having some very negative consequences for themselves and other people that are around them. So the impact of unresolved aggression can become immediate and long-term. It can affect the relationships. it can affect their mental health and their overall well-being. And we see that definitely happened with her, right? So youth with unresolved regression, they may express it in physical violence, right? Or it may be some type of verbal outburst, verbal altercation. It may also result in youth not following rules, right? So some rule breaking, some non-compliance, which could have negative impacts, create some conflicts with all those around them. So that with parents, with teachers, definitely, law enforcement, any type of authority figure. Also, built up aggression can also cause depression and sadness in youth. It may cause them to withdraw academically and things of that nature. It may also cause some other destructive behaviors like vandalism. And so we definitely do not want anger to build up in youth, definitely to the point to where they have built up aggression, as her stated, right? So my goal for today is, so I'm going to give you all 5 ways that staff in juvenile correction facilities can positively engage with you in order to create a safe culture, a healthy culture, one that is trusting, one that is respectful for our people, right? So why? So that staff do not get killed by youth, that staff do not get killed by other staff, that our youth are not killed by other youth are not killed by staff. Everyone in these facilities should be going home alive safely. All right, so that is my goal. We're going to go over those 5 things. And first, before we go over those 5 things, we got to talk about the culture in this youth facility, right? What was going on in this Lincoln Hills detention facility for youth? All right. Now, so let's look at problems at the Lincoln Hills Detention Center that caused the death of Proulx, a youth counselor, in June, just short of 2 months ago. So there's 2 big problems that I want to highlight. Okay, the first one is the mistreatment of youth at this prison has been long known, right? It's been under scrutiny for several years, more than a couple of decades, at least. There's a documented trail of reports by staff and youth, investigations, all of sorts, that even staff members have testified since the death of Proulx that it was only a matter of time before someone was killed, right? So let's look at some of these things, right? Some of the issues include staff abuse of youth, assaults on staff, vandalism of property. In 2012, a juvenile inmate was sexually assaulted and knocked unconscious by another inmate. There's allegations of abuse that led to a Federal Bureau of Investigation inquiry into the civil rights of these youth that were being violated by the prison, which ultimately did not result in any charges. So that was over 12 years ago. Also, emotional abuse by psychologists that went unpunished. Youth being emotionally abused by the psychologist. Come on. Various forms of abuse by staff. So including, right, so staff being accused or reported that staff physically abused youth, leaving youth with broken arms. Even one staff slammed the door on a kid's foot that cut off a couple of his toes. Emotional and verbal abuse, even sexual assaults by staff members against youth. Also, many of these cases against these charges or accusations against staff have gone, either no criminal charges have been filed, or there's no been punishment, or perhaps maybe even they have been pushed out the door with pay, things of that nature. Staff falsifying reports. And so now all of these things over some decades, now we have the death of 49-year-old Proulx that resulted from an assault by 16-year-old Javarius Hurd, right? So a boy who will likely never go home to his family again. So the second biggest problem I want to highlight is the staff, So youth detention staff believe that punitive and restrictive policies will make the facility safer, right? So not just in Wisconsin, this is really a national problem. We're just going to talk about the United States, who incarcerates more youth and adults than any other country. We, for some reason, believe that if we lock humans in cages, that it'll make everything safer, and that could be farthest from the truth. So in a hearing convened by state judiciary and the public safety committee, right, with the Department of Corrections in Wisconsin, also with family members and friends of Corey Proulx, the committee members said that they were going to request the judge reconsider reinstating the use of pepper spray, mechanical, and the limits on mechanical restraints, and also solitary confinement, right? These have been some practices that have been reduced, within the facilities because of many of the abusive complaints. So now, because this officer has died, right, based on a wide range of conditions in the facility, now they're saying, hey, to fix this, to make staff more safer, let's bring back pepper spray, mechanical restraints, and solitary confinement. Let's bring these things back. Well, what we're going to learn today, that's really not the answer. And we want to first, let me tell you that the use of pepper spray, mechanical restraints, solitary confinement, there's lots of literature, many studies done. These are very harmful for several reasons, especially when used for youth. These practices can cause severe physical, psychological, and developmental consequences for children. Right? These are children. Brains are not fully developed. Their bodies are not fully developed. And they're very vulnerable because of past trauma that they have experienced, mental health issues, even developmental challenges and things of that nature. Also, did you know that 90% of youth who commit crimes have experienced some form of trauma, right? So trauma among incarcerated youth is prevalent. And staff members who are being assigned to work with youth in various forms should also engage with youth in a trauma-informed manner. So in just a moment, right, I'm going to give you these 5 ways to engage with youth. And so my goal was really to help juvenile correctional staff really think about and understand how they can implement proactive practices that are informal to have positive life outcomes. That's what we want, positive life outcomes. So instead of responding to behavioral challenges or outbursts with solitary confinement, taking away incentives, using pepper spray or any type of physical restraints, mechanical restraints, or even just with sarcasm, disrespect, right, harsh words against youth. How about we try empathy? We're going to try empathy. How about we try developing trust and respectful relationships with youth, right, between staff and youth. And so that's really the solution here, you all. So here we go. 5 ways to engage with youth in a healthy way in juvenile corrections, right? So it's really crucial because building trust and relationships between youth and staff is really the cornerstone, the foundation to safety, right? So when young people feel heard, when they feel valued, and they can actively participate in the rehabilitation process, it fosters, an environment for trust and respect. Bottom line, all humans want to feel safe and valued and heard, even the staff members. Right, I'll come back with another video where I can talk about the relationship between administration and staff, how the respect is important there, right? And the respect is mutual, right? That's the whole point of mutual. It goes both ways. Okay, so number 1, here we go. Number 1, building respect through dialogue. How can we do that? So there needs to be open channels of communication between administration and staff, and also between staff and the youth residents. Okay, so creating opportunities for regular open dialogue between youth and staff. It helps for youth to be able to express concerns, and for staff also to be able to express concerns, their ideas, and their feelings, to be able to talk about any, emotional, physical challenges that they may have. So when you feel that their voices are heard and they're taken seriously, it builds trust and reduces the likelihood of verbal and physical outbursts and attacks. It reduces the likelihood of rule violations and things of that nature. Okay, or even building resentment. That's really important. Because again, Heard said, he had this built up aggression. So there was some resentment that he had built up because he had not been feeling heard or valued. And so we also need some feedback mechanisms, right? So implementing systems where youth can provide feedback. So they can be, whether it is through circles. So we're going to talk about restorative practices. Whether it is through, sitting down in a circle where all the youth and staff, whoever is in part of that residential community, can sit down and have that open dialogue. It can be one-on-one conversations. It can be, they can be impromptu conversations. They can be scheduled conversations. There needs to be some form, whether it is allowing you to write something down, where staff, these interactions can happen where you can really express their experiences. And we want staff to be able to express what their experiences are as well and give some positive feedback. So it reinforces the idea that youth can feel safe in the environment. Number two, so creating a positive environment. That's important because we already know the things I showed you that were going on at this Wisconsin facility, that it was not a positive environment. It was a very negative, unhealthy, and toxic environment. And so how can we create a positive environment? So recognition of achievements, that's a way. Definitely, right? So when youth are incarcerated, education has to continue, certainly. So recognizing youth, their academic achievements, recognizing behavioral achievements, any type of achievements that you can create, whether it is they've kept the residential hall clean, anything that happens with youth in their livelihood, recognizing progress, right? No matter how small it is. So it's really important to always point out the positive, be very intentional about providing praise to youth, rather than only pointing out the bad behavior, right? If we're only pointing out when a youth does something wrong, they're walking wrong, they're looking wrong, they didn't get up as soon as you ask them to, right? Whatever, the TV's too loud, whatever the things are, right? If we're always pointing out the bad behavior, then it creates a barrier for building a trusting relationship. And the outcome will be negative behaviors, right? The negative interactions and some of that built up aggression. Another way to create a positive environment is by implementing restorative practices, certainly. So such as listening circles, right? Or even conferences. So conferences are more formal when a harm has occurred, all the people that have a stake in the matter can sit down and come and identify harms, needs, and obligations, right? And so it really allows opportunity. For example, if the youth is responsible for some harm, it allows the youth to really take accountability and responsibility for that and understand how his or her behaviors have impacted others. And so that's important for development of youth, right? And it can only happen if it's mutual respect there, right? So the other part of that is staff need to be accountable and responsible for their behaviors as well, in terms of how that they are treating youth and how that they are enforcing rules and things of that nature. So that's the second thing. Okay, number 3. Addressing individual needs and concerns. This is a big one. Everybody wants their needs and concerns to be addressed. Everyone wants to be heard. And again, Javarius Heard, 16-year-old Heard, a boy who assaulted 2 officers and one subsequently died in this Wisconsin facility. So he did not feel his needs were heard. So these youth detention facilities, so staff, definitely when we're thinking broadly, because rehabilitation is a big focus, so definitely developing individualized rehabilitation plans that consider youth's unique strengths, their interests, their challenges, what their needs are, how can you help them to thrive and be successful in life, right? Definitely taking a personalized approach with each youth. And then also we want to give empathy and support, right? So when staff demonstrate empathy with youth, right? When they provide emotional support, it helps youth to feel safe. It helps them to feel cared for. Again, recognizing that these are children who have been removed from their home. They have been removed from their parents, grandparents, siblings, their friends, their own bed that they're comfortable in, right? And so this support particularly is meaningful for youth that have experienced trauma or have had any negative experiences with authority figures in the past at all. Right? Again, coming with that trauma-informed approach. And I would be willing to bet you that Javarius Heard, that he felt unheard. Right? He actually expressed a grievance and was felt that he was being treated unfairly. And so it led to him acting out with violence. It led to him using violence. And that was his way of being heard. Okay, number 4. Consistency and fairness. All right, so applying rules consistently and fairly. Right, so trust is built when staff apply rules fairly and consistency for all youth, right? Without a doubt, youth know what to expect. So expectations are set, and youth know that they will be provided the support that they need. And if expectations are not met, youth know what the consequences are, and the consequences are applied consistently and fairly always. And consequences also need to be applied consistently and fairly with staff, right? Staff should know what the expectations are in terms of how to treat and how to interact with youth. In doing my research about what was going on at this facility, there's also reports that the superintendent over corrections for the whole state of Wisconsin, he visited Lincoln Hills Detention Center a handful of years ago, and that the youth bombarded him, telling him about the abuse that they were experiencing from the hands of staff, right? So that's, again, youth not feeling heard if nothing's done about it, right? And when things are done, there needs to be some transparency in actions. So that's the other part. There should be transparency. So when staff are transparent about their decisions and provide reasoning for the decision, like how did they come about making that decision, explaining reasons behind rules and consequences and doing things of that nature. So it reduces feelings of distrust, right? We want to be transparent so that we can reduce feelings of distrust and that we can build trust, obviously, right? So it's building understanding. It's providing clarity to you. And again, I think this was a clear sign with this situation with Javarius Heard that there wasn't transparency, right? He felt that the staff member was taking advantage of her authority. I mean, it's very disheartening for me, to understand this. And so, I'm concerned about the support that staff are being, provided, the training and the knowledge and the things of that nature, and how they can go about engaging with youth. So the 5th thing, let's look at the 5th thing. last one I got here for you. So role modeling positive behavior. Yep. So the staff member, they're the adults in this juvenile facility. These youth that are incarcerated, they are children. Again, they're underdeveloped. Again, they have more than likely experienced trauma. They may have some mental health issues, right? Youth, the brain is not fully developed. They tend to be impulsive and not really think through their actions before they do it. Oftentimes, not really thinking about what the consequences are. I don't even know that Javarius heard, he really even thought through the consequences of assaulting, this woman. He intended to, what he shared in his statement was to throw soap in the woman's face, and he ended up punching her. And when he went outside, he ran into Proulx. He was approached by Proulx, and then he punched him and knocked him out. I just don't know if he really even thought it all out. He had this built-up anger in him, and he just was not able to make rational decisions. And it really stems from the negative relationships that he had. There wasn't trust there. There wasn't trust or respect there. And so staff have to model and demonstrate respect. Staff have to demonstrate patience and integrity. Integrity is your trust, right? Is your word. Like, stand on your word and doing the right thing. It sets a standard for how youth are expected to behave. Definitely. Right. And so seeing staff embody these values, it can help inspire, the youth to embody those values as well. If you observe patience and kindness and grace, even firm, having rules, they know what the rules are, and sticking to those rules and being consistent and fairly, you know what to expect. They will model those behaviors as well. Staff should also lead by example, right? Practice what you preach. Be consistent. So those qualities encourage you. We want to encourage you to be responsible, be honest, and be kind. And all these things create a trusting and mutually respectful environment. And the last part of that is shared responsibility, right? So how can we thinking about empowering you to take responsibility for their actions, right? And for the well-being of the facility, of the community. And so staff behaviors, if staff model the positive behaviors that they're looking for, the youth would do the same. All right, so those are the 5 ways that staff can engage with youth. And so as we wrap up this video, I just want to share, by engaging with youth in meaningful ways, staff can transform the community, right? The facility, this environment, right? We want to think about how can staff foster an environment of trust, respect, and cooperation. It's essential for the rehabilitation of youth. It's essential for the well-being of youth. It's essential for the well-being of staff, right? We want the men and women who work in these facilities to be healthy. We definitely want to promote good mental health, physical health, and well-being of staff. So we need to foster safe environments for all of them. So may everyone go home alive. That is a goal. May everyone go home alive. All right. Thank you for watching. Please like and share this video and subscribe. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Cicely. Peace.